Amazon với mức giá cực kỳ ưu đãi như đăng ký brand với USBTO, từ thêm, từ cho dầu cao, logistics và warehouse. Xem hình thông tin chi tiết dưới phần mô tả nhé.
Today is Tacos Tuesday, so we're bringing on another advertising expert to answer all of your Amazon PPC questions, including the latest on product launches and more. How cool is that? Pretty cool, I think. Want to keep up to date with trending topics in the e-commerce world? Make sure to subscribe to our blog. We regularly release articles that talk about things such as shipping and logistics, e-commerce in other countries, the latest changes to Amazon Seller Central, how to get set up on new platforms like Newegg, how to write and publish a book on Amazon KDP, and much, much more. Check these articles out at h10.me/blog. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Serious Sellers Podcast by Helium 10. I'm your host, Bradley Sutton, and this is the show that is our monthly Tacos Tuesday program, where we bring a special guest every single month, and we talk about anything and everything Amazon and Walmart PPC related. And so you guys, hopefully you've been getting some of your questions ready. I've been getting some questions ready that I'm going to be giving to our guest. And let's get them all answered. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and bring on our guest, LeRon Hirschhorn from Incrementum Digital. LeRon in the house. How's it going, man?
It's going great. Thanks so much for having me on.
Awesome.
Excited to be here.
Awesome. Now you're still in New York? Is that where you're based out of?
I'm in New York. Yes.
Okay. I was just there a few weeks ago. Took the family out there. Be going one or two times again in October. And one of the times is I'm going to be seeing you. You're going to be our guest speaker at our Helium 10 Elite workshop. Do you know yet what you're going to be talking about there? Can we give anybody a sneak peek at all?
Possibly Amazon Marketing Cloud is what's been on my mind. But we'll see, I guess, if that stays the topic, or maybe we want to get some feedback from the audience. There's a lot of very interesting things happening with the Amazon Marketing Cloud. We could talk a little bit about that here.
Let's just start with that real quick. I think there's a lot of people in our audience who don't even know what Amazon Marketing Cloud is. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yes. So the Amazon Marketing Cloud is essentially what's called a clean data room. Essentially, it's just think about it as a place that hosts a lot of data, and through AWS. And what it allows brands to accomplish now that you couldn't do before is understand I would say two main things. One, understand the full customer path to conversion, and two, create audiences that you couldn't before. So let's tackle each one of those. When we say understand the full customer path to conversion, today we think we understand how a customer buys your product, but you don't really understand it. Meaning, if a customer searches your brand, clicks on a sponsored brand ad, then comes back, clicks on a sponsored product ad, and they buy, the only area where you're going to see the attribution of the sale is to sponsored product, because that was the last click, and advertising works on the last click attribution. What the Amazon Marketing Cloud does is it stores all that information, and it anonymizes the data for privacy reasons, so you don't have the specific customer information. But what the Amazon Marketing Cloud will show you is that you had this month, for this particular product, you had 100 customers that their path to conversion was branded search, click sponsored product ad, click sponsored display, buy, or see a DSP ad, awareness ad, search the brand name, click sponsored product, purchase. Because of this, what's happened historically is especially for those people that have done DSP and trying to understand whether or not DSP has incremental benefit on the sales.
Incremental. I see what you did there.
Exactly. Somebody told me that it was a very smart name to create a few years ago, because really that is kind of what's being measured here. Incrementality is being measured with the Amazon Marketing Cloud, because in the past, if you did a DSP ad, and you would be hard to understand if you actually drove more sales as a result of DSP. This will help that a little bit, because it will show you how many customers you had this month that purchased when they just saw, when they saw both, let's say, DSP and sponsored products together, and how many customers you had that only saw sponsored products, for example. So you'll get a better understanding, even though the way attribution works is it only goes to the last click. I always thought Amazon should have like an assist kind of metric where, if you had an ad that assisted as part of the process, it should kind of get something, but that's just not how ads work. And Amazon Marketing Cloud aims to solve that. And the more you do DSP, especially with upper funnel type marketing, the less you see the attribution there. So when I say upper funnel type marketing, that means upper funnel means not somebody that is immediately looking to buy. So bottom funnel, we have people that are searching for a keyword. They're ready to buy. People that you're retargeting who have visited your listing. They're at the bottom. They're ready to buy. As we move up the funnel, you have people that have viewed competitors, but not your product. And then you have what's called awareness. As brands grow and they want to scale, and they've already sort of maxed out based on like the amount of sales they could have just based on people who are searching for a keyword, they want to look towards brand awareness. But now you're running ads to audiences on Amazon or lifestyle. You have different markets and demographics that you can show ads to. What happens is when you run an awareness ad, that person is not going to immediately see that ad and go buy. They might need to see your ad over 3-4 months. And then when they are actually in the market for that product, they now remember your name. And when they go search on Amazon, they see that sponsored product ad, they're going to click on it and buy because they recognize the brand name and they've seen the ad before. The problem is that, again, it'll usually end up being something else, sponsored products or retargeting, that is the last view they have or click before the sale. And you have been running these awareness ads, but you don't know if they're being impactful. Well, now with Amazon Marketing Cloud, you'll see that that person actually started out with the Amazon Marketing Cloud. And I would urge people, if you're running DSP, have whoever is running DSP for you, whether that's Amazon, whether that's an agency, ask them to create an AMC instance for you. And the reason is because whether or not you're going to use AMC now or not, once you create that instance, you can go back a year. You have a year's worth of data since you started creating it. So that means if in 6 months from now or 9 months from now, you want to go back and you want to see the path to conversion, etc., you will have already created that instance. And then the other area where AMC is very helpful is you can now create audiences that you could not create before because you are tracking this data. So in DSP historically before, we couldn't differentiate between people who have visited your listing or added your product to cart. Now you'll be able to retarget people who have added your product to cart. You'll be able to retarget people who have added your product to wish list, who have searched your brand name. So lots of different audiences. There's something with AMC that is called paid insights, where you actually pay Amazon for additional information. With that, you can see on average how many buys it takes somebody to become a subscribe and save customer. So you can learn that on average, it's 3 purchases before somebody signs up. Because typically on our first purchase, we don't typically sign up for subscribe and save unless we know we like the product. And sometimes it could take your second or third purchase where like, why am I not just saving and just adding this to subscribe and save? So now you'll be able to understand that, and you'll be able to actually create a custom creative and show an ad to people after 2 purchases that says subscribe and save, right? Because you know that's the typical time where people do that, and you're able to create those creatives. So there's a lot that you could do with this. It's very powerful, but I would say it's still early in people understanding it. I would say a year from now, like today, you're an early adopter if you use it. A year from now, you won't be an early adopter if you use it. Mm-hmm. And also a year from now, I think it will apply more whether you're doing DSP or not doing DSP. More software tools will incorporate some data from it, and you'll find that there is sort of this freemium model that if you're using software, certain tools will give you these certain templates of different audiences and different path to conversion that is included with the software. And certain tools will say, okay, now if you want to get crazy and customize, because you can customize almost anything within this data, you'll have fees around extracting that data. But I'm sure companies probably like PackView, etc. Their PackView is, I'm sure, already incorporated AMC and are working on incorporating more and more of it. And you'll see those tools continue to add those things. And if you're using those software tools, you'll be able to access that data, and it will become more prominent. So it is very exciting today. It applies more so if you're using DSP, but I think that's going to change down the line. So I think it's important that brands understand this, and it will kind of change the way we look at our metrics from being focused just on ROAS to being more to having an understanding of also customer journey as well as ROAS. Because again, you're going to have that sponsored brand ad that's not going to show the ROAS attribution, but you'll say, hey, I know when I do this sponsored brand ad together with this sponsored product ad, the purchase rate is higher. And so now you're going to be looking at these combinations in the customer journey more so than just ROAS. And those that do will have an advantage because they'll be able to understand that sometimes that spending more without seeing the ROAS still equals ROAS actually on your ad spend. So it's pretty cool, and I think you'll hear more and more about it over the next year or so.
Okay, cool. So we're going to be talking about that perhaps at our elite workshop. So elite members can go to that one. We'll have tickets, for non-elite members if anybody's going to be there in town. The reason why we're having it in New York is it's Amazon Unbox, which is a cool conference. I haven't been to it. This will be my first one. It was my first Amazon Accelerate last week, so that was super cool. All right, now switching back to advertising, I want to ask my questions first here. So I got a list of stuff I've been waiting for to ask Liran, but one that I've been getting a lot, and I thought it was a good thing to bring out, is auto campaign optimization. So, with auto campaigns, obviously, this almost more than any other, can get super out of control if Amazon is showing you for a bunch of random stuff. But I'm wondering, how do you optimize for ACoS on campaigns? Because you can get to a point where, I mean, obviously the no-brainer thing is, all right, hey, if you should have rules in place where they're using Atomic or whatever software you're using is, if you get 15, 20 clicks or whatever magic number you guys pick without a sale, might start negative matching that goes without saying. But the other thing, that people can do is maybe they see some of their targets not performing well, like the loose match, the close match, and they could start, adjusting on an individual basis those targets. But even if you're doing that, I've seen sometimes you can get to the point where now you're almost all the way down to like a 10-cent, target, and and now, the quality of keywords at 10 cents, you're just not doing well, but you almost got to that point because so like what do you do? At that point, should you just, I'm going to go back from 10 cents to $1 just so I can get some new keywords? But where do you draw that balance?
Right. So the first thing is you can also create 4 separate campaigns where you literally turn off 3 and keep 1 on. So you have a set budget. So your budget is not mixed together within each of those areas because you might have, similar products that do very well, but you might have a loose match that doesn't do well, right? So that's something you could do, is separate out those 4, turn 1 off on each campaign, and then you have a dedicated budget for each one. And if something is working well, you can increase the budget. If something's not working well, you can also decrease the budget. And yes, the first thing also to recognize is that auto mainly should be there for discovery tool. So number 1, you may want to allow your auto campaigns to go at a little bit of a higher ACoS than what you want overall, because you want it to be there as a discovery tool. And yes, you want to ultimately add negative keywords, and you also want to harvest. So that means the search terms that are converting, the ASINs that are converting, whatever your rule is, whether it's 1 conversion, 2 conversion, 3 conversions, you want to move them over into the manual campaign. Now, you can also choose, it's another personal decision, if you're going to negate that keyword in the auto campaign or not negate. There are pros and cons to both. If you negate it in the auto, you have full control in the manual. What if in the manual it doesn't get as much traction as it did in the auto, right? And you negate it in the auto and it doesn't get traction in the manual. That would be a reason not to negate in the auto campaign, but still you would ultimately have a higher bid and a more targeted bid in your manual campaign where it should be getting traction there and not so much in the auto anymore. I would say the point is, don't let auto be too much a percentage of your overall spend, and maybe allow it to be somewhat of a higher A cost because you recognize that it's a broad discovery type of tool.
Okay. Another situation. Let's say I've got a target A cost for a campaign. Just, doesn't have to be auto, but my target A cost is 40%. So, I want my targets for also, at the target level to be 40%. But on one target, let's go ahead and say it's a broad match target. I'm at 77%. Now, my cost per click on it is, or my target that I had, the current bid was $2.91. Let's just say $2.91. So let's just say, let's call it $3. I'm looking at an exact example now. Let's say it's $3. If my cost per click is $2.50, right? So I'm obviously not maxing out my target. If my target is $3, right? But at this 250, I'm still at 70%. I mean, why my target was at $3 in the first place, let's just forget about that. I don't know what I was doing there. But, obviously I have to go down a lot,
You have to go down below 250 to make a difference.
Yeah, definitely below 250. But is there like, if 250 already is 77%, should I already try and get or put the target at whatever 40% is going to be? Or is there value in just going down incrementally? Like if I just go 250, technically it still could, now I was already getting 250, I'm still going to be at 70% or 77% A cost. Should I just go down more and say, hey, I'm going to go down to $2 because that's going to get me closer to 40%? Or do I start, is there any value in, all right, I'm going to go to 250 and then let me go to 240 and 230. Well, what is your thoughts there?
There can be value in going to 230, let's say. And I'll tell you what the value is. The value is that the placement that you get may be better than the placement that you get at $2, and that placement can influence the conversion. So for example, at 230, you may be at the bottom of page 1. At $1.70, you may be only on product pages, for example, right? And your conversion rate may be much less on those product pages. So there is a benefit in going incrementally and not going too fast. I would say it depends on, how much it's spending and how important it is for you to cut a cost. I would also say it's important to understand the relevancy of the keyword. If it's not such a relevant keyword, and my feeling is, well, it may not work, or it's not highly relevant, it may not work. My feeling is it's not going to work so well probably at 240 either, then I may just bring it down further. But if it's an important keyword, if I'm maintaining ranking, I would try to understand what's happening. Is it a cost per click issue or is it a conversion issue? It could be a cost per click issue. It could be that, $3, 250 is expensive and it's a $12 product and my conversion rate is good. It's just a cost per click issue. If so, I would try to bring it down more incrementally to see if, to see what I'm comfortable with. Maybe I'm okay allowing that keyword to be at 50% A cost ultimately. So I think it kind of depends on the keyword, the importance of the keyword, and how much I'm focused around like tacos versus growth in sales. But there's the benefit you have in the incrementality is the placement. Is that your conversion rate may be better at a you may just end up being on like product pages at a certain point, and if you are, your visibility, your clicks, your conversions are going to be a lot less maybe based on the product than in the search.
And then
results.
when you end up on product pages, it's like somebody searched that target keyword, they clicked on another product, and then now you're showing up on the product pages. All right.
Correct. Exactly. Because placements, even when you're targeting keywords, placements are happening on search results and product pages. So I would say, generally speaking, with PPC, you're better off making smaller, faster, incremental changes and looking at data than making, vast, big changes. quickly.
All right. Next thing is the flip side. Let's say my target ACOS is 40%. With what I'm getting right now, though, it's only 10%. Would it be 10 out of 10, 100% of the situations I should always, and I'm maxing out my target. Should I always increase my bid because theoretically I could be leaving money on the table depending on where my placement is? Or is there a situation where hey, let's just keep that 10%, even though
I wouldn't say, no, I mean, I wouldn't say all the time. I would just say,
Anh chị đang bán hàng trên Amazon. Skyrock cung cấp các dịch vụ dành cho các nhà bán hàng trên Amazon với mức giá cực kỳ ưu đãi như đăng ký brand với USBTO, tuần theo thêm, tuần chơi Scout, logistics và warehouse. Xem hình thông tin chi tiết dưới phần mô tả nhé.
because again, it could be just helping you be more profitable. One report that you could look at is the search term impression report, because that report would give you an idea of how you rank compared to other brands in terms of impressions for that particular keyword. So, for example, you could be be getting the most impressions out of any other brand and getting 60 or 70% of all the impressions. Probably not in that case, because you're maxing out the cost per click, but you want to see kind of where you are and how much more room is there to get impressions. Now, generally, I would say yes. For me, most of the time, I would want to increase the bid for that particular keyword, and I would want to get more market share on that keyword. But if you're very focused on profitability, and this is helping your tacos be at the target, then maybe not. But what I would say, though, in that case, you may want to consider, let's say you don't want to increase your budgets anymore. You may want to consider shifting budget. Find the stuff that's not working as well, where you can reduce the bids, and then maybe allocate it to this keyword. Generally speaking, I would say I would be likely to increase the bids on that keyword. If I was under my overall, I would look at it on a kind of a campaign level, not on a particular keyword level. So if my goal for that campaign is a 40% ACOS, and because of this keyword I'm at 30, then I would definitely increase. Okay. Now, if I'm at 40 still, because there's other keywords that are 50 or 60, I would see maybe I need to move budget from those keywords, and I should give it to this one. So I'm not increase my budget, but I'm a lot more efficient and I'm getting better sales. Okay. I would also see where's my ranking for the keyword. If I'm ranked number one, then there's no maybe I don't need to increase. Right. Yeah. Or if I'm ranked number 1, 2, 3, right? Maybe I don't increase because I might just be cannibalizing my organic sales. But again, if I'm number 17, I say, I'm definitely pushing on this keyword. And probably what I'm doing is, if it has enough volume, I'm moving into its own campaign. I'm adding a top of search multiplier on that keyword. All right. Question from Jonathan. Keywords per campaign. You go from one spectrum where there's people who do single, target keyword campaigns. You go to another spectrum. Some people have like 50 targets. Let's just start with that part of his question first. So I would say we're somewhere in between, meaning your highest search volume keywords, most important keywords, we isolate really into their own campaigns. And then from there, based on search volume and performance, we'll group keywords together. I would say probably up to 30 to 50 keywords is max of what I would go per campaign. If you have a lot of long tail, lower volume keywords, I think that's okay. But definitely the highest search volume keywords, or keywords that have sort of medium volume, I might group into groups of 5 to 10, for example. As far as budget per campaign, that's very dependent on what is your overall budget, what is the performance like, right? I'm generally going to be shifting my budgets. I'm not going to just put a budget. I'm going to be shifting my budget to the best performing budget campaigns, and I'm going to be maybe taking budget away from my poorest performing campaigns. So I think the budget needs to be dynamic. I think when your question more budget toward discovery or scaling, I think in the beginning, you're going to probably have more budget on your broad and phrase than on your exact match. As you uncover those best performing search terms, you're going to move more into exact and have, probably more budget there. But it's very common that we find like phrase match be the best performing keyword type, and you'll have, we'll have most of our budget on that match type. It's sort of in between discovery and very narrow targeted. But I think over time you're going to put more budget on your scaling campaigns. In the beginning, you're going to put more budget on your discovery campaigns. And because your scaling really should be your best performing keywords, right? So that's where you're going to allocate more budget to, and less so on discovery, because you've already discovered a lot of what's out there initially.
All right, kind of a universal, this question has been around for years. People have different opinions on this. Hey, you're doing great on sales, about to run out of stock. Do you slow sales by raising price and turning off ads, and then that hurts your potentially keyword ranks before, or do you just go hard and heavy, run out of stock, and then just get back in, and hopefully you still have your keyword ranks when you come back into stock in a couple weeks?
I think from a ranking perspective, it's better to run out of stock at a better BSR.
I agree.
So I think that's the better way to go. Sometimes you're going to make a decision that, hey, I just want the profits, right? Because that's what's more important to me at this point in my business. I'm going to focus more on the profits now. I'm going to raise the price. I'm going to, or sometimes you may be able to raise the price and there's so much demand that you're still driving pretty good sales, and you can still raise the price somewhat, and there's a happy medium. But I would say from a ranking perspective, it's and coming back in stock at a better rank, it's better to go out of stock with great sales than to slow down your sales.
Speaking of like auto campaigns, exact campaigns, it's in my opinion, I don't know if Amazon announced anything, but just in my opinion, I've seen other people say the same thing, where what used to be broad and what used to be exact is not, like 3 years ago is not the same now, where now you have an exact campaign, and sometimes you're even shown for like what you would have thought would have been a phrase match, or even, broad match in some situations because of this. Like, are you managing things differently at all? Like, using modifiers or things like that?
Yeah. I would say use modifiers. Modifiers will help protect it, because if you use a modifier, then it kind of forces it to be a true exact modifier before each word in your keyword. But even with that, sometimes there's certain synonyms that Amazon considers the same. So you just need to manage it with search terms and negative keywords and bids. But yeah, Amazon is definitely trying to find ways to increase their advertising revenue, and as a result, they're being more generous in what they are considering your keyword, and using synonyms. So use of modifiers will help protect against that.
Okay.
Used to be they started doing it just in sponsor brands, and then we've seen this year Amazon doing it with sponsored products also.
All right. Another question, let's say I'm trying to optimize for my target ACoS. And so I make a change, because I'm trying, like something similar to what we were talking about. Like, I'm at 70%, I'm trying to get to 40%. So I lower my bid a little bit. Now, how often are you going back to that and seeing, all right, now I need to further, because you talk about doing some incrementality, or I need to further adjust that. Like, is it time-based because of that attribution window where you can kind of take a look at it? Or is it like, maybe I just get I can see that in one day, I got 500 impressions just because this is maybe some super high search volume keyword. Is that enough data where even a day later, I'm further making changes? Or once you make a change, basically my question is, what are you looking at as far as when it's time to go ahead and optimize further? Is it impression-based or time-based?
It's based on the data, and so I would say, one, it depends on your budget, right? Because the more budget you have, the more data you're going to have that's coming in faster, I still wouldn't make change from one day to the next because you don't have the full attribution coming in. Even if you see ultimately that, like, you know, maybe you didn't have any sales at all, like, you know, right? Like, you just know that you didn't have orders from it. I still wouldn't make change from one day to the next. I would wait a few days. So generally speaking, I would say it's good to be in your account 2 or 3 max times, but probably a couple times a week to optimize, I think is good, because the one thing you don't want to do is make changes too often where you're just messing yourself up. And this is something we see also with sellers. They're impatient, right? In, you know, because you don't want to spend money you don't need to spend, and, you know, I think everyone gets emotional when it comes to your money.
Yeah.
But I would say like two days a week is good to go in and make those optimizations. So, you know, if you did it on a, you know, on a Tuesday, go back in on like a Saturday, or, you know, like find 2 days a week that you go in and you're making those changes. Now, again, if you have a ton of data, a lot of spend, maybe you make those 2 days, you know, a little closer, like Monday and Friday, or a little closer to each other. But you want to give it enough time also to get the attribution, because there will be people that, and impressions, not, you know, I would look at clicks and actual data of spend, not just the impressions, but you also, people do come back and buy also, right? So if you could have gotten 10 clicks today, and if 1 or 2 of those become sales, maybe the ACoS will be fine, and you have people that come back 3 days later. So you do really want to give some time to the attribution window to be in place. I would say most products on Amazon, people do buy the same day, if, you know, they're not very high priced products, but it does also happen. So give yourself a few days in between changes. Okay. And, you know, even if you're using software that even has, like, you know, rule-based things, then you can give the software days, like look on Monday, look on Saturday, you know, look on Friday. And also, when we do give software rules, you want to make sure, like, when you're decreasing bids, one of the things you want to make sure that you're doing, just like an example that you said, the rules that we give it is like lower. Okay, if keyword is above target ACoS, lower cost per click by 5%, let's say, right? Because if you lower bid, you may not be reaching the cost per click, like you said. So you want to make sure that if you're using a rule-based tool, that you're looking at the cost per click when you're lowering, and that you give it, because a lot of times softwares will have both the ability to lower your bid or your cost per click, that you lower your cost per click. And yeah, we like to do it incrementally. I wouldn't want to go in and say lower by 20%, you know, or just like lower the bid too much. Lower 5%, below, then let's see. And then the software will be doing this, or you will be doing this twice a week. So over a couple of weeks, you are going to be significantly lowering your bid, where it should be enough of a change. But I would say it's better to kind of go a little slower than make drastic changes. Usually drastic changes are emotional, and sure, you know, in business, you kind of want to separate yourself from some of that, which is why rule-based is good. But even if you're not using rule-based software, set up rules for yourself on how you're going to manage this based on the different circumstances. It's not a bad idea to write down for yourself, what are the rules that I'm going to use to manage if I'm managing manually as if I'm software. Yep. And how often am I, you know, what days am I going in? How much am I lowering? And, you know, yeah, maybe take some of the emotion out of the management.
Another question, now that, you know, obviously for a couple years now, you know, things like two-step URL, search, find, buy are explicitly against Amazon terms of service. Me personally, 100% of my launch strategy is, you know, PPC, you know, and it's almost, I'm almost giving it the same thing as when it was search, find, buy. It's still kind of search, find, buy. It's just not, you're not just trying to tell people to randomly search and stuff, which is what Amazon frowns on. But, you know, I lower my price by a lot in the beginning, you know, big sale price or big coupon. And then I try and do a super high top of search. And then it's basically, I'm trying to get people to search, find, and buy it, you know, even though I have no reviews, where they're like, hey, this is this price, you know, like, just, you know, I can't, you know, I can't let this go. So that's my 100% launch strategy. Now, other people, I hear, sometimes they couple it with maybe like press releases or perhaps even Google advertising, as well. What about you, for you and your clients, for launch, when you're trying to launch on a certain keyword? Uh, are you strictly doing Amazon PPC? Are you using other techniques? If so, what?
We're strictly doing Amazon, and we do it exactly the way you do it. Meaning, first of all, the keywords that we're focused on ranking, we will give them their own campaign. We will utilize top of search placement. We will recommend to our client to come with an aggressive price, coupon, and we do it exactly that. The one thing we really watch for is the conversion rate, okay? Because if the conversion rate is poor, we're not going to get the ranking. And so what we focus on once we start getting the data in is the keywords that we're not getting that conversion rate. If it's across the board, then it's something on the listing side, the price, or we need some more reviews to come in. But if we see some keywords performing very well with a conversion rate and some not, we'll pull back on those that are not getting the conversion rate. And that really should very much be your focus when you're launching with those keywords. Are you converting? If you're converting, then you should start seeing the rankings coming in. We had a call with a client today, and he said, "Hey, I'm not seeing the ranking." And I said to him, that's because your conversion rates are too low. And he actually just lowered the price on a product today, and we're going to see if that makes an improvement. But you should be very focused on conversion rate. And we've seen the ability to be able to rank, especially when you have a new product and you have this honeymoon period, just with PPC. I don't think you have to do Google or outside traffic or anything crazy. Amazon will reward you if you are getting sales velocity plus conversion rates.
Yeah. Okay, now for the last 5 minutes or something, just some quick hitting strategies, either on Walmart advertising, Amazon advertising, some things that people you think should be definitely doing out there.
We'll talk about two things. Number one thing I see that is a problem. We do a lot of audits. Is sponsored display VCPM campaigns. I would encourage you to relook at how much money you're spending on those campaigns. Sometimes Amazon will encourage you to have more of those campaigns. I saw an account recently that had 30 or 40% of their sales coming from VCPM campaigns. And I could tell you without a doubt that probably the majority of that was cannibalized organic sales that are coming from those campaigns. I would say if you're unsure, don't run those campaigns. The sponsored display campaigns that I like to run are cost per click campaigns and product targeting. You can run retargeting with sponsored display on a cost per click basis. So that's what I would do. I would not run impression based. And just the explanation is, the reason is impression based campaign, somebody can just scroll by, view it, go back to the listing and buy from a retargeting ad, and it gets attributed to the retargeting ad when we don't know, since they just passed by it, we don't know if that influenced them to buy or not since they didn't click. So I would focus on your sponsored display campaigns with cost per click. The other thing I would say is to the more granular you can go, the better. Separate out your branded and unbranded campaigns. Separate out your exact phrase broad campaigns. Take your high volume keywords and put them in their own campaigns. The more granular you go, the more control you have. And that's, I think, one of the keys. And I do think it's important today to also use software, because more and more things will be coming out with software. You see like the Amazon marketing stream. So if you don't have that, you should be using software that has the Amazon marketing stream, because you can see hourly data on how you are getting sales. One thing we've seen with that is generally, if you're unsure, or if you have limited budget, I would encourage you to day part and stop targeting from 12 Pacific to 5 a.m. That's usually when everyone's budgets reset, and you're going to have a higher cost per click and not any better conversion rates, usually worse conversion rates at night. So that's another strategy to help you, to help you save. And, I would say at the end of the day, pay, if you're managing it and you pay close attention, it's not rocket science. Managing ads. It's taking a look at your search term reports, taking a look at your conversion rates, managing bids, adding negative keywords. It's complex because you need to give it time and you need to pull the right reports and data. And also that sometimes people think their product, their problem is an advertising problem when it's not an advertising problem. It's a product problem. And that's also something we see very often. I spoke to somebody today. They sell like a shopping cart, one of those like laundry things you carry around. And they said, hey, how come it's not, selling as well? Their product has about 100 something reviews. It's selling okay, but there's competitors right next to you at same or lower price with 5,000 reviews. And so again, it's not an advertising problem. It's going to be a product problem. How can you differentiate your listing more from the competitors? They do actually have a great listing. And I think it's actually one of the reasons why I think they are selling fairly well with a lower review count, but also their problem is not an advertising problem. It's a product / competitor review problem. And that's why, the ability to reverse engineer your competitors with tools like Helium can really help you understand where your competitors are getting sales from. Also, whenever people look at their competitors, they're assuming their competitors are, even though you may not be, the competitors are profitable and, selling at great margin. And that's also not always the case. Yeah. People are looking to get market share. So, I think just go very granular and give ads attention. If not, maybe consider outsourcing it. But if you give it the attention and the optimization and you learn to understand it, it's very much a data-driven game.
Okay. All right. If people want to reach out to you, to get some more help with PPC or to ask you some follow-up questions, how can they find you on the interwebs out there?
Sure. Thank you. You can go to incrementumdigital.com. You can also sign up for a newsletter there. You'll get our weekly newsletter. We're sharing, updates. We do webinars. So you can also just sign up for the email list there just to stay up to date. And obviously you can contact us through the website. You can also follow me and Incrementum Digital and myself on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, and you can DM me, if you have any questions.
All right. Well, Laurent, thank you so much for joining us. It'll be nice to see you again in your home stomping grounds there in New York soon. And wish you all the best of success with you and your team. Please say hi to Mansour. He's been on this show before, and the rest of your team. Thanks a lot.
Anh chị đang bán hàng trên Amazon. Skybox cung cấp các dịch vụ dành cho các nhà bán hàng trên Amazon với mức giá cực kỳ ưu đãi như đăng ký brand với USBTO, từ thêm, từ chuyên Scout, tích và warehouse. Xem thêm thông tin chi tiết dưới phần mô tả nhé.